Did the FBI just overstep their bounds by asking banks to sift through customer data using political terms like Trump and MAGA after the January 6th Capitol riot? Well, Congressman Jim Jordan, he calls it alarming and pervasive financial surveillance. Senator Tim Scott, he slams it as a flagrant violation of Americans' privacy. So was the FBI targeting citizens based on their political views? And has this agency become politicized? Join us as we delve deep into the story, exploring the motivations behind the FBI's request, the legal implications, and the broader implications of political speech and freedom here in the United States. Buckle up, guys. Definitely hit the subscribe button, and also make sure to join us as we explore the FBI, politics, and the search for truth. So here's the exclusive, guys. The FBI asking banks to search private customer data using terms like Trump and MAGA. Check this out.
So House Republicans are now seeking answers from a former Treasury official after the agency told banks to flag consumer transactions that included terms like Trump or MAGA. Documents show that banks were told to search for customer data for other key phrases, including popular sports stores like Cabela's, Bass Pro Shops, and Dick's Sporting Goods. Now, federal officials also asked those banks to comb through customer transactions for book purchases, including religious texts like the Bible and media subscriptions. Officials allegedly said those purchases could indicate extremism. Now, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, who is leading this investigation, says search of those transactions violate Americans' constitutional rights. Listen.
So it was big banks looking and searching private transactions using key terms at the suggestion of the federal government to find out what you're buying, what you're spending your money on. Scary stuff. All it looks like, without any warrant, without any legal process, they undertook this as a way to identify domestic violent extremism.
Jordan now writing a letter to the former director of Financial Crimes Enforcement Network saying, quote, FinCEN used large financial institutions to comb through the private transactions of their customers for suspicious charges on the basis of protected political and religious expression.
Now, honestly, with surprising surveillance like this, I'm starting to wonder why they say fascism is alive and well in the Democratic Party. But what do you guys think? This is all a part of the aftermath of the January 6th Capitol riot, and Representative Jim Jordan from Ohio revealed the shocking information coming from documents obtained by the House Select Subcommittee on the weaponization of the federal government. And so this panel was headed by Jim Jordan, and they demanded testimony from the agency's former Strategic Operations Division Director Noah Bischoff as part of a probe into what the Ohio Republican called an alarming case of pervasive financial surveillance, seemingly conducted on the basis of protected political speech. Now, they said that the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network of the FBI distributed materials to financial institutions that, among other things, outline the typologies of various persons of interest and provide financial institutions with suggested search terms and merchant category codes, or MCCs, for identifying transactions on behalf of federal law enforcement. Now, these materials included a document recommending the use of generic terms like Trump and MAGA to search Zelle payment messages. Yeah. Now, additional suggested terms included Biden, Kamala, Antifa, and more. The FBI, FinCEN, also gave out what they call Lone Actor Homegrown Violent Extremism Indicator, which warned that extremism indicators include purchases such as bus tickets, rental cars, or plane tickets for travel to areas with no apparent purpose, or the purchase of books, including religious texts and subscriptions to other media containing extremist views. So they're hunting down people buying Bibles or something? Like, what is really going on here? Word on the street, though, guys, some banks came up with search terms like MAGA and Trump to scan customer transactions for potential red flags. We don't know which bank started it, but FinCEN then spread those terms to other banks, supposedly for them to make it easier for them to file reports on suspicious activities. But beyond the terms that were identified by the House Judiciary Committee, the unnamed bank generated other terms, including white power, Camp Auschwitz, Antifa, Proud Bee, Storm the Capitol, Grioper Army, Threepers, Boogaloo, Civil War, Last Sons, Kill, Shoot, Gun, Death, Murder, and the list goes on and on. So the FBI also distributed slides explaining how financial institutions can flag customers who fit profiles of potential active shooters or terrorists based on their transactions. The slides tell banks to search for terms such as small arms, Cabela's, and Dick's Sporting Goods. Basically, Americans exercising their Second Amendment rights are potential threat actors for the FBI. But really, it's just kind of hard hard to wrap my head around the fact that the FBI basically just kind of asks banks to comb through their private transactions of their customers for suspicious charges on the basis of protected political and religious expression. This is why the House panel wants to question the FBI directors about their bureau's mass accumulation and use of Americans' private information without legal process. The FBI's protocols, if any, to safeguard Americans' privacy and constitutional rights in the receipt and the use of such information, and of course the FBI's general engagement with the private sector on law enforcement matters. Now, Bank of America reportedly handed over the information of 211 people to the FBI. Only one of the 211 were actually brought in for questioning. So again, that was the FBI requesting the country's second largest bank to voluntarily and without any legal process snoop through their information of anybody making certain purchases in and around Washington before and after the riot. Now, this also included providing Bank of America with specific search terms to look for as it looked over customer data indicating firearm, hotel, Airbnb, or even airline ticket purchases leading up to and after January 6, 2021. Whoa, right? So this is a big deal, and it really raises a lot of questions about privacy, freedom of expression, and the role of law enforcement. Now, if you find this concerning and you want to stay informed about what's happening next, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. This kind of investigative journalism definitely takes time and effort, and your support definitely helps us bringing you guys important stories. Subscribing is completely free, and it definitely also helps our channel grow. So I really appreciate you guys. That way we can reach more people with this kind of content. So thank you. And it's not just the FBI. The top Republican on the Senate Banking Committee, Senator Tim Scott, he penned a letter demanding answers from Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and FinCEN Director Andrea Gacki, asking them about the FBI urging private financial institutions to surveil customers' transactional level data using politically charged search terms in order to flag certain customer profiles on behalf of federal law enforcement. They said that these allegations, if true, represent a flagrant violation of America's privacy and improper targeting of the United States citizens for exercising their constitutional rights without due process. Scott said that these could very well be part of the past efforts to weaponize the financial system and payment activity against politically disfavored lawful activity. Then he recalled that the Obama's administration, Operation Choke Point initiative, where the Department of Justice, the DOJ, coordinated with federal financial regulators to intimidate financial institutions into denying services to legitimate businesses that the administration was ideologically opposed to, including gun retailers. Scott is demanding that the Treasury Secretary or the Treasury Department and FinCEN turn over information on the role, if any, FinCEN played in soliciting financial data from private companies to help law enforcement to identify targets after January 6th. He's also asking for answers on what the basis was for FinCEN to conclude that the purchasing or processing of religious texts may be indicative of extremism, and who at FinCEN decided to warn banks of that possibility. So what do you guys think? I'm kind of starting to get why people are saying the whole world was safer and saner when President Trump was in the White House. Which reminds me, the feud between Trump and the FBI has been brewing for years. It all started back in 2016 with Hillary Clinton's email probe, where Trump accused the FBI of being biased and demanded that they lock her up. Then, as president, he expected unwavering loyalty from Director Comey, only to fire him for not being loyal enough. Fast forward to the Russia investigation, Mueller report, January 6th probe, and even after the Mar-a-Lago raid, each chapter adding fuel to the fire. Now, Republicans in the House Judiciary Committee are fuming, releasing a 1,000-page report claiming the FBI is just so politicized, it's unrecognizable. And they're even hinting at the big investigation into the FBI's alleged anti-Republican and anti-Trump bias once they take over the House. Now imagine juggling 8 bosses, 4 from each team, and somehow staying in power for nearly half a century. That was J. Edgar Hoover's reality as an FBI director. In fact, the guy pretty much walked a tightrope between politics and nonpartisanship for 48 years, dodging demands from presidents and playing the Washington game all the while. We often paint Hoover as a villain, but his power allowed him to restrain certain pressures, even from presidents. Think of it as a bureaucratic David versus political Goliath. right? Now, by the time Truman came to office in 1945, Hoover was a national celebrity. Meanwhile, Truman, who had been vice president for just 3 months, was largely unknown and untested. And so Hoover wanted him to expand the FBI into a global spy agency. Truman went another route, creating the CIA. Game on. This was the very first time Hoover went head-to-head with a president and won, proving his independence. Experts call this bureaucratic autonomy, the ability of career civil service officials to kind of run their own agendas. Now, Hoover played both sides, making friends with Republicans in Congress and keeping tabs on Senator McCarthy, even though they were both anti-communist. Why? Because Hoover valued his control more than the political alliances. He even waited for Truman to leave office before delivering a final blow, testifying against him in a Soviet espionage case. So Trump's recent subpoena challenge echoes a very similar episode from President Truman's era. Truman refused a subpoena from Congress, ultimately facing no legal repercussions. However, the story doesn't end there. J. Edgar Hoover, the then powerful FBI director, used Truman's post-presidency to attack him. With the backing of President Eisenhower, Hoover accused Truman of being soft on communism and ignoring FBI warnings. Public opinion sided with Hoover, leaving Truman with a very mixed legacy despite his legal victory. When Hoover died in 1972, Nixon thought his FBI woes were over. Oops, wrong. Replacing Hoover, Nixon picked L. Patrick Gray, an outsider. He wanted Gray to be Nixon's yes man, just like Trump later demanded of Comey. But Nixon underestimated W. Mark Felt, Gray's second in command. So Felt, a Hoover disciple, was furious about the outsider choice and leaked Watergate details to the press, becoming the infamous Deep Throat. Fast forward to Trump's era. Well, Trump supporters have framed the episode as a witch hunt in which deep state conspirators colluded with craven liberals and an irresponsible press and drove an admirable president from office. So Trump critics saw it as a necessary response to public abuse where justice prevailed. The FBI, love it or hate it, seems to be caught in the political crossfire. Democrats, especially after tussling with Trump, tend to see it as a hero, while Republicans not so much. Makes sense, right? With Trump's legal troubles looming, everyone's looking at the FBI through a partisan lens, each cheering them on or undermining their broader political agenda. But the partisan split isn't exactly helping us answer the big questions about the FBI. How much power should the director have? Should they be independent or should they answer to the White House? And isn't there a point where too much autonomy gets undemocratic? Not to mention, where do we draw the line on surveillance? Back in Hoover's day, these questions were basically decided by one powerful dude. Not exactly a model that we want to repeat, especially considering the abuse of power that went along with it. But hey, at least the presidents knew that they couldn't bully the FBI. Today, we need better solutions, ones that still protect the FBI's independence. No easy feat, but definitely worth thinking about. So what do you guys think? Does the FBI need a power shift? So where's the line between independence and accountability? Share your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let's keep the conversation going, and definitely don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos exploring the complexities of power and law enforcement. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.